Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Live. I hope everybody's having an excellent start to their week. Okay. We are back with some more tarot cards today. I was able to work a little bit on the fortune teller last week and get back to on track with some of these cards. I realized that it had been a month since I started this one, and so I really wanted to kind of get back on track because I have a really fun schedule ahead with this one. Not a crazy one. I have actually a lot of wiggle room in it. Knock on wood. I just said that out loud. But one that I just want to kind of, when I start sharing, I want to be sharing it regularly. So to do that, I need to get a few more cards done, and I'm eager to kind of get to the point where I can do the border and start implementing it as well. So I'm very excited for that, and I also wanted to get to the next stages with this lovely lady. So when we left off last, I had put the candles on, we had put the flames all set up, and we still needed to do a few adjustments. So we had the stars, I finished those off. I used a couple of fancy brushes to kind of give a little bit more texture to those, have them stand out just a little bit more. Oops. Oh dear, super sensitive today. I added some shadows into our reds a little bit more, and then I finally got to put the beaded curtains up, and I think they came out really well. I'm thrilled with how these came out. I was a little worried that it was going to take over a little bit, especially once the other patterns were down. I also didn't know how to handle it with the color versus black and white. I think they would have faded to the background if they had left them black and white, even though this is a tent and there's no color in the tent. I think this is kind of like the outside coming in, so that I allowed myself some color, and it gives them some differentiation and pops them up really nicely. And I gave them a transparency, so as you can see here, you can sort of see the bow kind of through that bead there. I made sure that some of the patterns had some of their extra elaborate parts in the beads, and the accents really make them pop, so they look like a set of glass beads. So I'm thrilled with how these beads came together. So for all current purposes, she is done for now. I am going to continue on with the next card today. It's a color card, which is exciting. I have two color cards I want to do, and then I want to go into the border and start designing the border and the on this side of the card, and then the back of the card as well. So that will probably be a couple lives. I love the beads. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. I love how they came out, and I'm really glad I thought to put that little bit of transparency in there. It's subtle, but I think it really makes them pop, seeing that little bit of the hat in behind and a little bit of the other textures in behind. So I'm really glad I worked through that because they came together really well. So I'm very excited with how this came together. So I'm very eager to see how she's going to come together on the with the border and everything, but that's a few weeks from now. So we're going to move on to the next card, and kind of like with the fortune teller, I drew it and just kind of couldn't stop this weekend. I just was working on this guy all weekend. So this is our first of what are called the major arcana cards. These are kind of like, there's the four suits, but then these are kind of the big deal. Oh shoot. I don't want to mess this up, so just let me make sure. I'm going to check here and see. The major arcana, there are 22 of these. So there's 22, if I'm reading my Roman numerals correctly, 22 major arcana cards. And these are usually like the cards you hear about more often. So the Wheel of Fortune, the Death card, the Lover's card, all that kind of stuff. That's what these are. They're usually kind of like more significant in a reading. They're a little bit more significant. Usually people, like when I first started reading my own tarot, I started with just a major arcana deck, just those cards in the deck, so that I could get to a feel for what the deck was going to give me, all that kind of stuff. So they're kind of a bigger deal. So what I have chosen to do here with this Night Circus inspired, I have chosen to have mostly characters or important elements from the book to be each card here. So the character inspiring this card, this is called the Emperor card. And I'm just going to pull up his description here. The Emperor card does, I was reading it just earlier. I don't always just read off my notes, I swear. So the card descriptor for the Emperor card is authority, establishment, structure, and kind of a father figure. But also there's some domination, excessive control, lack of discipline, and inflexibility. So that kind of really describes this character pretty accurately for those of you who have read the book. There's two kind of characters. There's him, this guy, and his counterpart, and his counterpart's very together, very rigid, and this guy's kind of a little more loosey-goosey. When we kind of get in here, you'll see his hat, although very put together with a nice suit. I kind of went with kind of uneven edges and kind of not perfect lines and things, because that's just not really how this character comes together or puts himself together. And he's a little bit more raggedy and not always a very nice person. There's also another element of his story that I'm going to tell with this card, but we have a lot of work to do before we get there. So let's get on to what we have going on here. So I have laid out the patterns just like I've usually done. We've got some paper patterns in here. We have some stained glass broken down. We have some parts that don't have any stained glass, so they're going to be treated a little bit differently, like not the breakdowns, I mean, just like we have in the other cards. And we have a big background in the back, which I'm going to deal with now, because it's supposed to be kind of a curtain in the back there, but it is extremely distracting. So I want it there, but it's really taking over when it really won't in the end. So a new one, and we want a new layer, and we want to modify, and we have a black brush, and I want to do, I'm trying to kind of treat all these cards differently. So like I mentioned, this one's a color card, so we don't have that black and white hue saturation layer, that area of like kind of like sucking out all the color, but I want to still treat everything kind of the same, like having this kind of, all the backgrounds have been very black, but I'm going to leave some color in here as well. Oh, that's a little too dark, so let's just kind of pull it back a little bit. I guess it's its own layer. I can pull some stuff out of there later. There's some little bit of weirdness in the bottom left, the bottom right now that I'm seeing this kind of laying out. It's not, there's like, it was an arm and all this other kind of stuff I was going to define, but I figured in that part of the card, the border and everything. It's Monday. English is not my first language today. Monday, like the corner there, the border is going to kind of have a shadow and kind of go in there. So I didn't want to stress myself out too much by defining that a lot. I feel like we're going to be knocking a lot of that back in a few different ways, actually. So I'm not going to get too fussed about that right now. Okay, I'm just going to pull that back a little bit and leave that as it is. Just wanted to knock that back because it was extremely distracting to me. So let's start doing, we'll work on this hat, I guess. We'll do some multiply layer, and we're going to start laying out our usual stained glass. Thank you for listening to that very long preamble. You guys are awesome. Okay, so we're going to bring this down to like a 30, and the color is going to be, these are all the palettes again that have been created using the different patterns that I put in. So I'm just gonna try, I still haven't created that library that I said I was going to do. I want to create kind of a style guide for this, like a style sheet, and I want to make sure that, so that all these like brushes and color palettes and stuff that I use are all very consistent. But I think what we're doing so far is okay, in that I'm still using like the paper patterns to guide those color selections. So I don't think, even without a style guide, I don't think that I'm going to be too far off. I don't think it's going to come like, they're all going to be still pretty consistent is where I'm going with this. So it's been a pretty good week. I got to work a little bit more on the tarot, obviously, and I got a little progress on some of the market stuff for the fall, because I suspect those things are all going to sneak up on me pretty quickly. What is happening? Sorry guys. Status equals ragamuffin. There we go. So yeah, prepping for market things, because I don't want to be prepping it too late. So I want to ease into that, make sure it's all ready to go. Just a couple more things, because this next markets I have booked are in the fall and ready for Christmas. So I want to just make sure I'm well ahead of it so that my printer is well and available. I can test, I was testing today some different printing options that might be a little bit of cost savings, all of that kind of fun. But then getting to work on this project a little bit. I'm very excited for this project. So many really good cards. I have another one right in the queue next, another color card. I'm very excited for it. And I am finding that with these cards, I know this is only the third one so far, I'm finding that I'm getting a decent rhythm with them. I think like the most challenging part is coming up with the layout and the structure to get the concept across. And then once that's ready, I really find I can get in a pretty good groove. It's just kind of figuring out which patterns go where, and where I put the stained glass and where I don't. Just kind of figuring that out, and the layering. This one's going to be a little bit odd. I've had like 3 layers so far of that paper pattern, so like we're breaking things apart. But this one's going to have a different element of that to it. It's going to be tough to explain, so it'll probably be a future live. I do not anticipate we're going to get that far in this today. I have lots of the color prep and everything to do before I do that. So there may be a few layers, but I won't really know how it's going to look until I start drawing it out. Oops, I forgot one message. So many things to inform that I'm going live. I've got to automate some more of these. I try to do it, but I keep forgetting. This one. This one. Hey, everyone. Sweet. All right. Sorry, everybody. Just wanted to make sure everybody's informed. Okay. This maybe? I'm just trying to make sure everybody can be seen. It's weird with this ginormous monitor that I can't see everything. Okay. There. Perfect, I think. Okay, we'll give it a shot. Okay. So yeah, this one's going to be kind of a work in progress. See how things come together. This one will also be a bit of a different layout for the card as far as the border and the suit and stuff go as well, just because it's again a major arcana card. We want to make sure it's treated a little differently, but that's all part of a different planning process. Oops. So I mentioned I did some printing testing this week for a few things for markets and such. But then I thought right after I submitted printing, I should have printed the other 2 cards that I had done already to see how they come out in a print, but that's okay. We have time for that. And it'll be good to do when we have the border, etc. all picked out. So like I mentioned, this character is kind of, he's a performer, and he's in color because he's not really part of the circus. So, not really. So I am having him be in color because he's out in the world. And like I said, he's a big showman, got a bit of an ego situation happening, but is a little bit more raggedy. Like his dressing room is described as a little bit raggedy and messy, and all those kinds of fun things. So kind of more I don't know, just he's not as put together as his counterpart is, who's very put together and very serious. And one thing I was going to mention when I said I talked about the layouts and things, the challenging thing, one of the more challenging sides of this, was the decision that I made to try to not show faces in the illustrations. When I was starting to sketch these out, when I initially had the idea, I was getting really hung up on the faces and did they look like the characters, and does this character look like that one, or does this character consistent across multiple cards? And character design just isn't something that I have fed in my creativity. I'm sure it's something that I could get to, but I feel like a tarot deck is not where to start with that. And I also didn't want to, I really kind of wanted to pull away a little bit from using having this be a very literal fan piece of the book. I didn't want to be assuming characters or kind of taking on too much of her characters. I really wanted it kind of be more the feel and the vibe that I get from reading the book. So I decided to try to not put faces in. So that's why we have lots of veils and large hats, big hair. So that was kind of the bigger challenge for some of these. And it will be something that will continue to be a challenge, especially in a few cards to come. But I think I do find that once I find a way to get around that, then we can, the idea just kind of takes a tear and kind of totally, I can really run with it. Howdy, mister. Do you want to say hi to the people? Come here. Oh, don't jump off. There's a mojo. Do you say hi to everybody? There's a mojo. So that was what this guy was. I had him sketched up in my early parts of my research and my early interests in this project. I have him sketched up. He's one of the ones actually I cut out into different pieces. Like I physically paper made this card. But he didn't have a hat. He had a face. And so I was like, oh, I really like how this came together, and the final layout was really nice. But then I thought he would probably have a hat, and there's part of the book that describes that he has a hat that kind of is prominent in his act. So I was like, there it is. There's the way I hide his face. So his big raggedy hat is covering his face, but allowing me to still give a bit of the essence of the character, or kind of the vibe I get from the character anyway. Oops. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Just making sure everything's still lined up. What's happening? There we go. Okay. So what else has been going on? Lots of busy things, lots of prep. Like I said, just to keep the summer from getting too full. Found like May just kind of flew past, but also was really long at the same time. So I'm just trying not to blow past my summer. And I have so many art ideas to do. The work which funds my fun gets in the way. So many big ideas. Now I'm kind of getting, I'm going to be doing all the cards in this kind of same style. Maybe I should be doing some more of the line art on the live instead of you guys watching me do more stained glass coloring. But I'm going to switch it up a little bit throughout this one just so that it's not too boring for y'all. I just wanted to kind of complete sections in one go so they're at least consistent to one another. Because I find, like, depending on my mood, some of these will be a little bit more gradual or bigger shadows or little shadows, so I just want to make sure they're at least consistent within themselves for a bit. This is really relaxing though. I was on a live stream yesterday. I was watching a live stream yesterday, and someone mentioned that they wanted kind of digital coloring pages, so they could color them and reset them and try again and all that kind of fun stuff. I was like, well, maybe I can do that with some coloring books, because it is very relaxing and it's portable, which is nice. Okay, so we have those. I'm just pondering how we're going to handle. Let me see if I can find. This is why a style guide would be very helpful, because instead of going back and forth to these large files, I would know what we were looking for. I'm just going to go to the brushes that we used and just the splatter mixed. Okay. For the fortune teller, I did have to reduce the file. I did have to, there should be a second copy in here. And I had to copy the file, and then I merged all the paper patterns together so that they were one layer, because the file was really lagging and I was really worried about losing any of it. So I did that before I put the beads on, because I knew I had at least 3 more paper layers to put on when I did that. There we go. Why are we so mad? Oh, mojo. Yeah. And I suspect I'll have to do the same thing with this guy, because even with the paper patterns that I used, it just creates a lot of information for it to load and to work with. I just don't want to lose any information. Oops, a little too aggressive. So we'll probably just do some duplicates there. I like to do a duplicate just because I want to maintain the raw files in case there's a shadow I missed or something I want to add. Very rarely have I actually gone back to a file to do that kind of edit, but the one time I don't do it is the one time I'll really need it. So just like to have that information just in case. Even if I want to reuse it, like there's possibility. I haven't come up with a scenario yet, but there's possibility of like reuse. Like maybe I need to reuse part of one piece to complete another, just to save some time or to make consistency. And it's just good to have all the information there if you can store it. Now that's going to look a little weird, the leaf and stuff, because I was going to put a color overlay over there. I don't want to leave those gray, so that's why that's a little bit of a weird contrast right now. So I'll fix that a little bit later, unless it ends up looking awesome, in which case I won't fix it later. I was at one point kicking myself for not making these bigger. They are 6x9 right now, which will ultimately be part of a 2.5 by 3.5 tarot card. But I was worried that they weren't big enough. Like I said, I'm only going to be able to print them at 6x9. They won't even be a full page, but I think given the amount of information that I'm doing, I think that's for the best. We could be a little bit crazy if we don't limit ourselves in some way. We have, oh shoot, Adeshina from in Behance. Thank you so much. Says, wow, this is great. Great job, I must say. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. This is card 3 of 78 in a tarot deck, because go big or go home, I guess. And we're in Adobe Fresco. For those of you, I see some people coming in and out. We're in Adobe Fresco tonight. My very favorite software right now. It's just so much fun. Actually, I was laughing because I think I've posted about this before, but yesterday I was working on a couple gnome sketches for the market in the fall, and I was just drawing in my sketchbook. I was watching some live streams on my iPad, so I thought, why not just throw the sketch into my sketchbook? I like to start them by hand anyway. And I found myself doing this more often than not, trying to zoom in and rotate and everything else. I've been on the iPad for quite a bit, I think, and I just couldn't wrap my head around. I just couldn't get my head around like moving it around, like it's like trying to pull it closer. I'm just so used to getting in this nitty gritty and kind of like zooming them around. So yeah, it was pretty funny. It's funny how different little things like that will get in there. And then if I paint for a long time or draw a long time, I'll be like, I want to smudge it with my hands. So that's kind of why I like fresco. There's got those really good middle ground. Everyone's friends here on the Behance. Adeshina, you're welcome all the time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. All right, just making sure my screen's good. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I think given the level of detail that we're throwing on these guys, 6x9 is probably a good limit to put on myself. If I did these like dragon level detail, first of all, they would be impossible to read. Second of all, it would be very, we would be here for a long time. We'd be here for 78 years. Those of you who did watch the live stream, if you haven't seen the socials recently, oh, it's the wrong brush. That's why I'm like, what is happening? I posted the dragon, finally. The dragon has been posted. He's on Behance, he's on Instagram, Facebook, and I am thrilled. That's one of those pieces I worked on it for so long, loved how it came together, and then just kind of like got almost like stage fright about sharing it, even though we did it all on live streams. It was just like, it took me so long to get it just right to get posted, but I am living for how it came together. We'll probably be printing that guy out nice and big. Nope, too much. And I'm happy to be back in these paper patterns a little bit more too. There's nothing wrong with the gnomes or anything. I've actually been really enjoying exploring that style a little bit and changing into some different colors, but happy to be back here too. I'm glad I'm able to explore a few different styles because it keeps things interesting. I know a lot of artists really stress about style because I think a lot of us have this interest in exploring different styles, whether it's completely different styles in that like one is digital, one is painting, one is sketching, or completely different hobbies, like one's a knitter, one's a painter, one's a something else. And like from my searches on the internet, it seems to be kind of a stressy point. Like, what do I do? How do I share it if it's all different? I just share all my work. I have my own account for my knitting and such, but try and like keep it all a little separate where I can. Keep that separate, but like for my art, like this stuff, gnomes, stained glass, everything up there, because a lot of people say that my style is very consistent actually, and I see them as dramatically different, but people say it's similar, so don't stress it. Just share all the things. We have Lucas in Behance. Hi, Lucas. Do I speak Portuguese? I do not. Sorry. I don't know if I think I have the captions on. I don't know if they translate, though. That would be sweet if they did. And Melissa, she says, nice job. Thank you so much. I'm assuming, sorry there. Melissa says, nice job. Thank you so much. So yeah, for those of you who are worried about sharing work, if you think it's all a different style, I'm still relatively new to this, so I don't know how much weight, what I have to say says is like how much weight I have on that. But I think stressing yourself over having different accounts, like if I had an account for like the watercolor style that the gnomes are in and an account for this, I'm already tired. I'd be so tired if I had separate ones like that. So I think a lot of artists out there have many different styles. Explore them, and they explore them for different purposes. Like I feel like my watercolor paint wouldn't really lend to the final look of the style that I'm going for here. Whereas I'm not certain that this would get all of my gnomes kind of across. So I say just go with what feels right on your style and don't stress it too much. I think we get ourselves too worked up about what people want to see, and mostly people just like to see art. So don't get yourself too worked up about it. Where's everybody from tonight? I assume, Lucas, you're from Portugal? But where's everybody else coming in from tonight? I love to see the international style. Maybe when we're done the hat here, we'll kind of throw in some of our darker shadows and show where things are going to go next. Because I'm going to keep doing this for a few days. Oops. To get all these done, but there's lots of shadows, lots of work that has to be done. But I think I might leave the layout and line art of the next card for the live stream so that this isn't too repetitive. Because for 78 cards, whew, it's going to take up a lot. Oh dear. Oops. Oops. This is all the same layer. Oops. My leg's falling. I have to make one jump. Couple more pieces here, and then I'll switch gears a little bit. I try and make sure when I put the stained glass lines in that I don't make it too them too small or complicated. I try and make sure that and try not to make them too even either, kind of like the Zentangle that we did a while ago. I try and make sure that they're not too predictable, that they help the shape along if there's like a curvature or something, but then also that they're not too tiny. Again, these are bigger, like I was saying that I wish I had illustrated them bigger, but now I'm glad that I didn't. But these are going to be presented at a smaller size. Yes, dear. Do you come see the peoples? Where's me man? Why are we sad, guy? What's the matter? What's the matter? Who's the saddest boy? Why are you sad, boy? Do you want to draw the pieces? Do you want to draw them? Should I have drawn them bigger, book? My goodness. You're a funny guy. Okay, calm down, please. We're just going to say here, we're almost done, buddy, okay? Oops. Thank you. Oh dear. All the same layer, remember. Alright. Oops, let's try again. Okay, so let me just take a small note here. Okay. I'm just going to make some notes for my eventual library that I am creating. Okay, hold still, buddy, please. Oh, dear. My pens are drying up. So I think I'm going to try and do a video of how to do that, because I think it's there's a lot of value to it. Like, I created my own style guide for my own branding, like the hues and tones, and I use it all the time just to make sure I get the right font and get the right color and all that kind of stuff, so that everything's consistent. And I think that will help here a lot too. What are you doing? Big smile, man. You'll poke yourself in the eye. You gotta be careful. Okay, I'm going to add another layer here because I'm going to throw in some of the bigger shadows and such. So again, a multiply layer. I'm going to stick with the same color. Just bring it up to 100. Is that a good one? Yeah, I'll try. Again, just making notes. Soft round opacity. I know you can create your own like libraries of colors and things like your own swatches and libraries that you can import into each piece. And I think I saw somewhere you can do that with brushes. So I'm going to do some digging and see if I can't do that myself. Why does this matter? You're a crazy man right now. Mojo's a crazy man right now. So we're just going to throw in some darker shadows to give some layering. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. What's the matter? Why does this matter? Come here, you lazy bones. Why? How do you make yourself heavier? That doesn't make any sense. Hi. What's the matter? Oops. You want down, bug? Okay. I will let Mojo down. You be nice, please. Leave the neighbors be. Thank you, handsome. We're almost done. Oh dear Lord, let's try again. There we go. It's a pressure sensitive eraser, so anytime I push a little harder, more things erase, so I forget that there's not all that control there. Excellent. Okay. I always throw this shadow in kind of, it can go in at any point. I like to throw it in last, at least after the stained glass stuff is done, or at minimum the shadows, because it overlaps the stained glass, kind of layering up some of those shadows. But these main shadows are intended to give a little bit more shape to the piece and kind of really lend to that paper pattern, although stained glass look that I'm kind of trying to get to here. Oops. But Mojo, please leave them alone, okay? Excuse me. Mojo, good boy. Come here to me, please. Lie down. Good job. Whether you do them first or you do them last, it doesn't matter, because I have them as a multiply layer, one on top of the other. That was shadow I wanted, was it not? It was shadow I wanted. Nuts. As long as they're on the multiply layer, then they'll still interact the same way no matter what order they're in or anything like that. So it's still going to give you the same effect. I just like to see it kind of happen over top of the stained glass to kind of just, because if an area just kind of like underneath this flower gets a little too dark, I might not put the shadow in. Probably not going to make a huge difference. Sorry, let me complete the thought. under the flower here, if I threw the big dark shadow on first, I may not have put down the same kind of shadow on the stained glass piece because it's already really dark. And so I may have held back a little bit there, or just not put one in underneath the flower just because like it would be really dark. Not in this case, because we're going to be presenting it this big, kind of, not really going to be a huge impact, but it's something I would notice. So that's why I like to put the stained glass information down first. Oh no. Where did those come from? Oh no. There's 2 dots, 3 dots that aren't supposed to be there. I should redo those shadows. What a bummer. Pickles. This is the one thing to a touch screen interaction. So yeah, so if you're looking at this style, it really doesn't matter how, like when you put the shadows in. Like I said, I like to do the finer details so that I can really watch them build up and be really layered in there. But it'll work out the same regardless if you keep using separate layers and multiply layers. I don't want to get too crazy with big shadows here, but we need to make oh, we have Trong joining into Behance. Hello, welcome to the stream. We're gonna have to do something to, I think I might do highlights with, I was gonna do this yesterday, sorry, excuse me, about how to make the top of the hat look like the top of a hat. But I think if I'm not going to do much with shadows. I don't think, maybe a little bit on the side, but I think on the top we'll do some highlights and just show that it's on the top of the head there. Ooh, accidental effect in the background is the curtain, because it's supposed to be like behind the stage, and there's like some big mirrors because he always has mirrors in his change room. Accidental effect, the curtain kind of looks like a spotlight. I swear I didn't plan that ahead. It just happened by accident. But it kind of looks like a spotlight because he likes to be in the spotlight. It's all about Prospero. He's a big deal in his own mind. Whoa, that's crazy. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so I'm going to throw in a little bit. We won't do the whole hat because I'm going to let everybody go soon. We're going to go to our overlay layer, and we're going to toss in a couple of our shadows. And what was my paintbrush? 52 for consistency. And we're going to throw in, not that one. This one. Yes. I'm going to throw in a few overlays here. Again, its own layer, so it's easy to clean up. So those two shadows that we have there with the dots in them, that's from me because you touch the screen and I touch, if you don't touch 2 fingers at a time, it'll think it's a brush stroke. So that's from me zooming and moving things around. I don't want to do it too often because I don't want to make y'all sick, but I also, because if I only touch on one and I don't notice, I could be erasing part of the art, unfortunately. But because that's on its own layer and it's sectioned out, it'll be easy for me to wipe that out with a lasso tool and just redraw the shadow back in, which I'll do a little bit. We can do one now and I can show you how it works. But because it's on its own layer, say we had put some of these darker shadows over here, it's really easy to replace them that way. So I like the richness that the layers give me, You could put everything on a single layer. It just makes editing after the fact a lot more unsettling. Because if I had like 3 or 4 shadows in here, then I'd have to replace all those different shadows and their dynamics. Whereas, which could be pretty complicated as things build up. See, I just did it again. Sometimes they'll undo, but sometimes they won't. And then we have to clean up the mess. But if there's a lot of shadows, like you can see, there's going to be, we have under the band of the hat, we have the stained glass shadows, and then the shadows from the band of the hat, and then anything that goes over top, it just kind of creates that richness. So if they're not all on the same, if they're all on the same layer, then it's very hard to fix it and to get that richness back, in my opinion. I would not be able to do it as cleanly, I don't think. So that's why I use lots and lots of layers. That's a very rambly, roundabout way of saying layers. Okay, let's go back to a couple overlays, and then I will let you all get on with your evening. So the goal here is just to kind of get that other side of the stained glass, get that shape rounded out a little bit more. Get that effect that we're hoping for. I do like how the overlay tends to work with the paper patterns, because it's almost, because my brush is on a multiply, it kind of gives that bit of a glow on that second pass, which is really nice. Gives me that kind of back glow that helps further the effect. And I pull the edge of the brush back from, I pull the painting area back from the edge of the section that we're painting, just again to give it that shape, to give the impression of kind of either an indentation, oops, or it being a little bit raised. Just to give that added level of dimension to it, which can sometimes look a little chunky or busy at this stage. But when we start throwing in the big shadows and the equivalent on the overlay as well, like we'll do some big overlays as well, like I mentioned, to make the top of the hat look like the top of a hat, some of that will flatten out, which is great. Oh, don't have an option. Okay, I'm not, Melissa, I'm just trying to interpret your question. Are you saying like I'm erasing and you're saying I could contract the selection? Is that what you're saying? Just kind of like reduce it? I think you can. If that's your question, I'm gonna answer it. If not, please clarify for me so I can get the answer to your question. But there is an option in Photoshop, and I believe here, I haven't used it, where when you have a selection like this, where you can kind of contract the selection. So you can say, like, I have this selected, now I want you to go in 3 pixels, or I want you to go out 5 pixels, and it will expand your selection out, which is really nice. So yes, I could do that here, although I do find the pixel edge to be a little bit rough when I go right up against the lasso. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over here to a new layer to show you what I mean. just a normal layer. So I'm going to go to the edges here. Not a good example because I'm just going to take some of the edges off here is what I'm going to do. So if I do this, I could just leave it like that, and that's fine. But I find that some of the edges, it's a little bit rough, but now seeing it compared to what I've done already isn't really that different. So yes, the way you're saying is totally possible. I'm not 1000% certain how to contract the selection in fresco, but I'm sure it's a possibility. So yeah, I could just contract the selection, but I just kind of like finessing it with the eraser. So yeah, it's a couple extra steps to do it this way. But I think that this, so if those of you are watching who are looking to kind of use this style or use this approach, contracting the selection is an option. I like to just kind of soften things with the eraser a little bit and kind of have that extra level of control over it. But as you can see, the difference isn't really all that different. So actually, let's give it a try. Let's do this. We're gonna delete this layer so I don't forget that it's there. And we will go to this. So yeah, it looks pretty similar. And then I can go in and just kind of like soften up that edge, just kind of pull it back. Because I'm not being super careful with my lasso. I really just want it inside the shape. Again, for kind of like speed of a live stream. So I just try and get a rough edge here, but I'm not worrying that it's perfect, like that's not exactly accurate there. But if I did just inside, yeah, it works pretty well. So I just would, on the bigger pieces that I've done in the past, I just didn't want to be super careful with the lasso, and it helped me pull it in a little bit. If I do this and I find like, oh, the edge is a little too far away, I have to go back and recreate it, where with the eraser I can just kind of pull it in. Either option works. As you can see, this one worked really well. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yes, that's definitely another option to do this. And if I was in Photoshop, definitely would use that contract selection option, which is great. I always use that for some of my design work and things when I'm in Photoshop. So that's actually really great. So thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. Yeah, let's try a couple more. Let's give that a shot. Why not? Because even a combination of the two totally works. Because I already know there's one part of the selection that got a little close to the edge. I think it was just, I've been doing it more because of a fine-tuning perspective. Nope. Or if I just can't draw a straight line. So there you go, and then you can clean up any little bits that are a little bit wobbly and go across. And it does save in some of these spaces as well. Some of that for accidentally erasing the section next to it. I try and leave enough room for that to not be a thing, but you never know. All right, but see, it's got that nice glow happening to it. It's coming to life, guys. It's coming to life. Okay, so we have much more illustration to do here. I have lots of work to do. I'm going to keep going with the stained glass here, going with that splatter. What's the paintbrush called? The splatter mixed for the sections that aren't broken down into the glass pieces, so that we have a bit of a contrast. And then we're going to put in the big dark shadows, get all that layering going, and then I'm going to do the thing that I said I was going to plan ahead and figure it out. There's an element to this character that I'm going to try and portray in this card, but I need to get all of this magic done first. So for now, I'm going to let you all go, I think, for the night. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Melissa, for your question. I do appreciate that. Thank you, everybody else who tuned in. I do appreciate it. Comments on Facebook. Thank you to my parents who are here. Thank you to everybody who has been liking and chatting. I do appreciate it. I'll probably be back with this guy next week. If he's finished, I'll be floored. But I'll be back next week to work on him a little bit further, and we'll see what else we have going on. In the meantime, I hope you all have a fantastic week, and thank you so much for starting your week with me. I very much appreciate it. Melissa says, very beautiful job. Thank you so much. I'm very excited how this is going to come out. Once I got the posture ready, I knew that this was going to be a really exciting card, and if it comes out the way I'm envisioning, it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm very excited. So thank you all for tuning in. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you have a fabulous week. I'll talk to you all soon, okay? Bye.